And we currently don't have anyone online. Yep.
So it's not stepping stones that you.
And Mike is on his way here. He had a personal matter, but she should be here in the next 15 minutes or so. Yeah.
I think we're gonna call it the regular project. They did not for this. No, okay, so it's 5:12. We will get going. We don't need to do a roll call, but it's one session for the council of Board of Selectmen. I believe it's July 14, 2026. And we can record which, we're not there about. Yeah, it can actually be that if we like. Would you like to do a roll call, Bridget, then?
Sure.
Thank you.
Georgia Kofen,
Here.
Mike Huggins, Amanda Cooper, Alex Sassoon, Dwayne Gazinski, Mary Smith, Rich Barrows.
Thank you. And we have people in the audience, I know we're gonna call on you when we get to that section of our work session agenda, and then we can have a few minutes to speak if they're going to cover the thing. We have before us a work session agenda. With items on it, and we I don't think we have any changes to that, and then you want to get started with the hauling permit. Absolutely. Great. The first item under around board will remember that I brought this to you and a very rudimentary form with some key bullet points that we wanted to quietly include in an updated permit application. The board endorsed all the bullet points that were included that evening, and so this is the result of that work. Jerry has also reviewed the permit draft and then incorporated the main points into the ordinance that you see on the regulation of the in the first reading. So I can go down through here the bullet points as quickly as I can. If you have any questions or if you want to stop and explain something in more detail, or and Georgia in front of us, she has lots of notes on hers, so she can jump in and throw that in if it's starting. The current permit is very basic and has some just very simple rules in terms of how the permit application would be applied to multiple trips, what the fees are, and how those, and some basic information that we would like to collect moving forward. In addition to that, we have added a considerable number of requirements in the spirit of protecting the roadways and the public from intense roadway traffic. So let me start with the first couple of points. The designated truck route that you see per section 10.18.0 is not changed and it is included as exhibit A, or will be included as exhibit A. The hours of operation are basically coinciding with our current noise requirements that limit noise from construction or heavy traffic from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. And then our permit conditions follow as such. 1. Maximum authorized haul trips. Each permit shall specify the maximum number of loaded and unloaded truck trips authorized. And under that means a separate permit shall be required if the authorized number of trips is exceeded. Trip limits shall not be transferable between projects or permit holders, and the town administrator may establish lower trip limits where roadway conditions, neighborhood impacts, or seasonal considerations more. Second, permit duration. Standard haul permits shall be valid for a period not exceeding 90 calendar days unless otherwise approved. Extended permits may be issued for projects demonstrating ongoing operational necessity, and permit renewals shall require confirmation in their permit conditions have been satisfied, payment of applicable renewal fees, updated haul schedules, and any revised traffic management information requested by the town. Number 3. There is a tiered permit fee structure proposed, and that's depending upon the number of authorized trips. And you see in the chart below, 1 to 5 trips would be minor haul permit, and the fee would be $500. 2, 6 to 25 authorized trips, and remember that this is over a 90-day period. would be considered a moderate haul permit. And would be $1,000 fee. 26 to 50 authorized trips would be considered a major haul permit, and that would be $5,000. And then 50 plus would be high haul permit for a $10,000 fee. Additional fees may be assessed based upon gross vehicle weight, roadway classification, seasonal roadway condition, frequency of hauling, anticipated payment for immediate police or traffic control and administrative review costs. Financial security, this is an important one. For major and high impact hauling operations, the community shall provide financial security acceptable to the town, including performance bond, you know what I mean, letter of credit, cash escrow, or other security approved by the town attorney. The amount shall be determined by the town administrator, but not less than $2 million. During our conversation initially about the bullet points, Mary's pointed out that $80 million was too low, so I upped it by $1 million. The security shall guarantee over repairs, shoulder repairs, drainage repairs, traffic control device replacement, cleanup costs, unpaid permit fees, and restoration of public property damage by hauling activities. Number 5, pre and post haul route documentation. Projects exceeding 5 authorized trips shall submit photographic or video documentation of all approved haul routes before hauling begins. Documentation shall identify pavement condition, curb and gutter condition, sidewalks, bridging, drainage facilities, guardrails, traffic signs, striping, and other infrastructure identified by the town. Following completion, all equivalent documentation shall be submitted for comparison. Any damage attributable to hauling shall be repaired at the permitting's expense. 6, traffic management plan. And required by the town administrator, applicants shall submit a traffic management plan declared by a qualified professional. The plan shall include designated toll routes, truck training blueprints, planning operations, temporary traffic control, lane closure, detour routes, designated accommodations, bicycle accommodations, emergency vehicle access, communication procedures, and hours of operation. The town may require additions before issuing the permit. 7, school transportation conflict mitigation. When hauling may affect school transportation, the applicant shall submit a school transportation conflict management mitigation plan. The plan shall include a consultation with the applicable school district, identification of school bus routes, student crossing locations, school arrival and dismissal periods, proposed hauling restrictions during student travel times, and emergency communication procedures. The town administrator may prohibit hauling during designated school transportation periods. 8, construction worker parking and staging. Permit holder shall submit a worker parking and staging plan. A plan shall identify employee parking locations, equipment staging areas, material storage areas, truck queuing locations, and methods to prevent obstruction of public streets. The following shall be prohibited unless specifically authorized: parking on residential streets, parking within town-owned parking lots, staging within travel lanes, blocking sidewalks of daycare facilities, or idling vehicles in residential areas. 9, hauling hours. The town administrator may establish hauling windows appropriate to the scale and frequency of operations. High frequency hauling operations may be subject to additional restrictions to minimize conflicts with commuter traffic, pedestrian activity, tourism, downtown business operations, school transportation, community events, and emergency response. Hauling may be prohibited during weekends, holidays, special events, festivals, parades, peak tourism periods, and other times designated by the town administrator. Number 10, recovery of professional review costs. Applicants shall reimburse the town for reasonable professional costs on the permit reviewing major or high impact hauling permit applications. The recoverable costs may include engineering review, pavement evaluations, traffic engineering, geotechnical review, legal review, environmental review, inspection services, and consultant services obtained by the town. Payment shall be required before permit issuance or renewal. Number 11, limited exceptions. The town administrator may approve limited modifications to the permit requirements when necessary for emergency utility repairs, emergency roadway maintenance, emergency public safety activities, town authorized infrastructure repairs, concrete placement operations where uninterrupted delivery is necessary to maintain structural integrity and other circumstances determined to be of public interest. Such exceptions shall be narrowly tailored, minimize impacts on the public, remain subject to reasonable conditions imposed by the town and not exempt the permitting from liability for damage to public infrastructure. And then number 12, authority to impose additional town administrator may impose additional permit conditions necessary to protect public health, safety, welfare, transportation infrastructure, historic resources, neighboring properties, and the efficient operation of the town's transportation system based upon the unique characteristics of the proposed following operation. Such conditions shall be reasonably related to the anticipated impacts of the project and may include additional inspections, monitoring, reporting, operational limitations, or mitigation limits. Specifically, the town administrator may require prohibition on engine braking within town limits, accepting emergency dust suppression requirements, mandatory spill response procedures, daily call logs, submitting on the request of immediate reporting of roadway damage, authority for the town to submit all during unsafe conditions, civil penalties for permit violations, revocation authority for repeated violations, and minimum insurance requirements, including commercial general liability and automobile liability coverage, meaning the town is an additional insurer where appropriate. And then the rest is existing permit limit. So at this point, if you have any questions, we'll be glad to help. But it's going to be best.
Okay, Blake, we'll start with you. Did you have any questions on what was read or on the code that was set?
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, did you have any?
I've got some rather advanced speaking questions. In number 5, who is next to submitting photographs and video documentation? But in number 10, you talk about actors and we don't.
Yeah.
Okay, so in number 10, the applicant is mentioned, but anywhere else, we talk about the permit fees.
Number 10.
Number 10, we start with applicant shall reimburse, everywhere else it's the permit fee.
Yeah. We'll replace out, bring it to you.
Or change it, sorry, to the vice versa, yes. If we have consistency. And then I'll be, existing example of a permit, we've got a permit fee of 250 paid, I mean, that needs to be able to.
Just to.
Yeah.
Also,
You have forgot it.
Yeah.
Okay. Rich, you have any?
Yeah, number 2, 90 calendar days. The contract's only 90 calendar days. Like they apply for a permit and it's. Then you got all like. 4.5 or 8 season, do they have to get another permit? To extend that, or how does that work?
The way that I've written it is, if the 90-day calendar period includes the weekend season, that would be, weekly 9 days. So if they use the permit for 30 days, they're legally eliminated, now, whatever is left over after. So 90 days to start.
So they're not, then how do you exceed that, or do you have to apply for yet another permit?
We apply for another, yes, okay.
And then, on number 4. The additional insured of $2 million. I don't know why we need have to determine that by the town administrator. A lot of times we've done. Rental of a property down, they don't. It was not exceedingly expensive to get additional insurance. And for $2 or $3 million, and I think. I don't know if they're going to need to determined by an administrator.
Yes. And they have to tell, because I mean, the organs, they might get this a massive pocket, but they just offer something unnecessary. But I'm just trying to,
Oh, not to be less than.
yeah, less than 2 million, but This is like.
But it's not gonna be less, okay, so that's very intense. If it was 1 to 5, you could say, oh, no, we only need 1 minute, but no, less than, right, covers all those things. And then these authorized strips and stuff, are they, is the county also charging fees? If a lot of Winona Pass Road is county. They're doing something similar?
Similar, but not as aggressive as this.
Okay,
Because I would argue, we've had this conversation, Stoy and I and the hydro team. I would argue that, the potential damage to town of Georgetown is much greater than basically a road up the mountain.
you know, switch that. You don't know them. He's getting interesting.
If they go on a mountain, I would.
So the county's gonna do something similar, or you,
They already got
the
this.
insurance, and they're good. I mean, that's my question about you. And then, parking. I thought we definitely think about doing something on that, the other parking chief. When you work with the Excel or the subcontractor. How does that work? Well, so it's not, they're not allowed for the use. Is that just a separate agreement?
Yes, so we have another facility component they would get, they would be, you would call updated those speeds earlier this year. But what we are running into, for example, is Farmer Works since they're in town for pre-treatment, and they have been. At various times, parking their vehicle at the end of the Third Street. Or going up the Sarah, right? And they didn't get permission, so they got to tell them you can't do that. So if they were to ask, to find a place to store their workers, if the works to get on site, they need to have a plan for this permit before they can get this permit.
Okay. Could you mention that parking's not maybe we see the cleaning fee for that? Yes. I think that detail, if I'm filling out this permit and I'm kicking. Not all my eyes and cross my T's, that I would like to know if that was available. I mean, what it would cost me, particularly as number is just one of working, you know, such a restrictive language that there is no case for these men. Yeah, thank you. Those were mine. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Mary. Question. Under hours of operation. I think hours of operation and hauling hours would be pretty closely under the application, but somebody's right up front. My first reaction was I was reading this. More of this one response and then there in the permit. I see more detail outline. So. I think just for the consistency of the we know that we can someone to go through this when it's going this out, and we should point it out with the parking. It would be a little bit easier on the applicants. We should define what a trip is. We talked about this at the last meeting, is it one way, is it round trip? Loaded and unloaded. Could be both ways.
Number before you jump in there, and I get some feedback on that, because that is something that could be a very high selectmen. Opinion, so in my view, a definition of a trip is regardless of whether it's loaded or loaded, it's from point A to point B. And if there is a point B to point A, that's another trip, so maybe because it's the second time through time.
Which me up and back is 2 trips, that's what we.
That's right,
discussed the last
that's,
time.
I agree, saying it in the.
So, yeah,
But does it matter to you all if it's loaded or unloaded?
I think it does, it's cooler in Europe, students that aren't necessarily, even an unloaded. Semi, hauling, whatever, but not semi, the vehicles and the hauling. Is. We had to do it,
So I think you're agreeing, I would argue that whether it's loaded or unloaded is considered a trip.
right, well, in that sense, right, then the next level, but we wanted to find those correct. A trip is.
Yeah.
One money, price for us, and then when they turn around, we come back down,
It's a second trip,
that's a second.
but does it matter if it's loaded or unloaded?
Yes,
And so then, no, I mean. They're both the same trip,
No, they're not, they're two separate trips now.
so then now I have two. No. Okay, so the truck goes from I-70 to Silverdale. That's a trip, it turns around, goes from Silverdale to I-70, that's trip 2.
Right,
Even if it's empty both ways.
yeah,
Or if it's full both ways.
yeah,
Yeah, that's fine with me.
Yeah.
So regardless of what's on the trailer. How much it weighs. Well, we have that information up front. That's 2 trips, so one trip is through town, that's is the trip. Basically,
I'm a big pantry, it's a town.
You guys should simply double trip because it, I'm driving your truck out there. And I gotta drive it back and get through, so it'd be annoying me to go. If they not even the truck me twice, this is just double figuring out, instead it's just making it.
So if they keep going, they can go all the way up and go down Grant and they're done for the day, because they're on their way there.
We're tearing up their roads, I don't know.
What's the industry stand?
Yeah.
That, I think that's the finding piece, because it's the model, I don't know what the trucker thinks, I don't know what they folks with. But I'm guessing there's probably some sort of industry standard, but it trip is, what's the normal,
Are you want to? Do you pay? Back, or do you just pay one time? No, that's completely different. This is your destination and then your return trip, it's 2 separate trips, we're still experiencing. The degradation of potential on our roads. That's what really is to go.
If they were making it trips, it's still gonna come back. It's charged for that up fine, you know, because I would bet that most of the truck goes over there, I mean, that, you know. How far do they go? If they're going to the power plant, I don't know, what's their, somebody does study what their normal route is. And I'm not agree with them. Yeah, I go through October, I don't get paid both ways. But most of the time I have to come back through the wayside, oh, just be far up front. What is it? No, that's what we're gonna do. Yeah, we're gonna do this plan, so by the chart. If you come in as a trucker and you want to get a hauling permit, we're gonna ask you, where are you going? And where are you driving? And if you say, I'm going up a drop at Excel's reservoir, and I'm gonna come back down, we'll say, that's 2 trips from. Then you say, I'm gonna do another, I'm gonna give a plan 2 weeks later, and then every 2 weeks after that, we'll add up all those trips. Look at the chart and say, you're at 26 to 50, you're paying us 5,000, you can work that check today. That's what it makes sense to you, you're trying to savers, you're going to the way station. I mean, yeah, I don't think that you'll have to do it, they're empty. But they're still on high, and if they have a boat, then they're going back to it doesn't make sense, makes sense. It makes sense, you can paint it. Am I thinking the way you guys would point out,
yeah, I don't want these standards, but. The expectation. Should be implemented, but
Yeah, so I think for the right there.
I think what the way he's trying to say is simplification.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, you know, you have to assume it's the very lucky chance that we do. So why not make it a round trip?
But that's not actually true. That's not actually true because we do get a lot of tests to travel, it's when Tommy go over the pass and then you'll never see anything. They're not stopping anywhere in between, they're just going to go through. I might call them tests, I guess, those shots, they're gonna go over. Yeah. Yeah, I mean. Yeah, they should get just charge every time you start about it's typically this thing get out of it. No, it's the can. I don't know.
when they come into a reply, they say this is my plan. They're the ones that are just going out, we sold it in. That's one trip. If they've been shuttered. We're gonna come there. Really one that can really get them out. And they will.
We don't want to isolate it, it's supposed to be a self thought, and we're looking at this because we'll have a targeted. Activity coming up on us, we should like this, hopefully it'll apply. Well, I was like a question too, what about the time like? Well, we sorry, that should the time the highway is cut down the past theory, somebody decides that we go with what all X. You know, I mean, we tell everybody it's not permitted, how can they get it permitted to do that, that's not in town, so. That might be very like, I'll see what's similar out there, the stage back, we got 30 minutes. Well, if you
I will come by, you know, but just curious, you know, that's all I have. Happens all the place in the market. Or they come back. That's right. And so we just deal with that. I'll just chase him down the street. Or department. You show me that every secret. So
He does have food.
So that makes intuitive then, we were starting a conversation very briefly with how we did. That how and where is the application?
yeah, and I
Is it
think
online, is it in person, is it?
both,
Let's say if we are.
right, we got a note to that, you're right.
So under number 2, under permit punishment, we discussed this a little bit, could we just add consecutive under the first bullet? Or period not exceeding 90 consecutive calendar days, so that it's clear to the applicant. Except that it's not, right? They just give you example.
No, you said it is, that it's, so now, at least it'll be part of the 90. Stay with us, yes, they do. And that's fine, because we don't want anybody.
But what I'm gonna push a bit of. Up to that, yeah, they're gonna be that.
And then to emphasize on the number 3, I would add. The over the 90-day period again, so front page should reflect the level of voting and administrative oversight required and the 90-day period. Since there was that figure under number 3, just for emphasis to add over the 90-day period, so that it's very clear to the applicant.
Right.
Since we define trips and we're talking about round trips, maybe you want to change the authorized trips so that it's 1 through 6, so they can get up and back, and we must want that to kick into a different level. Of proceed character.
Okay, 1 through 6, 7 through 20s. We go,
Yeah.
we want to go even number. Then.
And then my question though is it $500 per trip, or is it $500 for 1 through 6 trips? Or whatever the magic.
Flat fee.
Okay,
You kind of covered the around the thing like that.
under number 4, with the $2 million liability. I'd like to see some language there that hones in the area, because as we spoke last time we talked about this, we have X amount of, miles, feet, whatever, Brunel Pass, but we're also not just talking about Brunel Pass Road. It's like from the time they hit Georgetown, let's assume they're hitting the exit at the roundabout. The minute they hit our street, that's when this kicks in. Because we had damage everywhere.
So is there a way you think that could be just simply like referring to in exhibit A?
I don't know, because what if they did damage with the roundabout, and then they did damage on 7th Street, and then they did damage. Wouldn't it be in exhibit A or would that make? But it's in multiple locations. So how can you control the $2 million liability that it's per incident at separate locations? I think we need to define that so that it actually could be more than $2 million if there is a long stretch of road that experiences damage. So whether it's per 100 feet, I don't know,
I guess I suggest that I see these kinds of bond security funds elsewhere, and it's really security for the activities permit. Right, see if we've had some kind from the developer for all this stuff. And continue to face this number for this direction, that can be for that direction, and we need to provide sort of multiples instead of the security would be for the activities permitted by the permit. And if, as a part of those activities, they enter in different terms of street, then you'll go there, they can work on the other. If which is your, it's likely that there's going to be multiple damage that might seem to be running, and I think that's why we have the language that shall be not less. But I guess I'm not sure there's language you need to say. We say it's $2 million for each and every one. Injury. The bond was gonna be $2 million for the activities. Were permitted. Those activities are. Entering accounts for you. Taking too long to say, I'm not concerned with. It wouldn't be able to access. The $2 million bond. All of the stuff that we talked about.
I understand that, however, I am concerned about that, because I think that $2 million is gonna go up in smoke real fast. When we continue to have the amount of vehicles going back and forth on this particular project, or for the length of streets that they're taking, or as they're making the turns. There is so much infrastructure that $2 million is gonna be a drop in the bucket, and we're gonna end up bearing the rest of each other earlier.
Basic.
That's fine.
Or. Rely on showing not less.
Well, they still rely on things, so like, if we did a small truck policy. Versus an oversized dollar policy, very honestly, this is very of the cost of the house. But I get what you're saying, but that's what I was gonna say, like, maybe got a $15 million tomorrow, which is kind of like. As the party playing, which we did, which you talked about, the resident non what there was on. What do you think of the time we're doing this? So I mean, is that good?
But the caveat here is I can remember back 20 years ago. The standard number was $1 million.
Yeah.
So you come here today, 2026, 20 years later, the number is still $1 million. That doesn't mean, that's not right. It's like, it should be increasing every 5 to 7 years, right? Thinking of inflation or the cost of rebuilding the roadways going faster than else. So the $2 million right now is honestly a stab. Of what that number would be. And then to your point about Dennis, the authority given to the administrators, it might be comfortable for you now because it's me, but it might be different if it's not you. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so at the end of the day, they do rely on help desk to make sure that we're covered, because I don't, look at the bridges, and from that, so I'm trying to go around the block. Your equipment that is dry, already, it's what it was. Yes, I mean, I'm curious on what your going rate is. Balance, great. The balance, of course, is this. For, small delivery car, driver. There's a cost to a lot, and that's not a lot, but, $4 million bond, somebody's. There's a delivering, packages. It's probably, that's a cost on small business. So, I guess I can rely on larger impact. Permits, rely on the ability to this is the numbers.
Is there insurance that the sellers will have that would cover other damage that they might do? Do they have insurance?
Yes. Sure, yeah. Like all other initial letters that. This is that, so. Like. You access when you get an accident or something. This will be on top of that. We make sure that whatever the insurance. We. It was fine, so it's not. Very well. They're all state to try to get money out of them town for. Well, they should, and that's common right in your primary concept.
Put this in perspective. Christmas market vendors have to have $1 million liability to sell jewelry at Strauss Park. $2 million to fix the road, and the economic impact on this town is nothing. So maybe we just need to raise this, because we have to repair any of these roadways, it's gonna impact us in other ways than just the infrastructure of this road.
And to add a solution, I would say let's break it up. And let's do minor and moderate. Those are the first two categories on the chart at 2 million minimum. And then the major and high impact will be 4 million minimum.
Not 5%. I mean, do them? I want 5%. No, it's serious. I really do. This gets back to the question I had. What is a minor call? What is a moderate call? What's a major call? And what's a high impact call? We haven't even just started to find out calls.
Right here.
This is not correct.
Yeah.
So if I. So we're not taking into.
Right.
Absolutely late.
Yeah, we are, so we fill that in the beginning, right? So we know what the length of that is and what the maximum weight will be. So we're working with that,
Right.
assuming the worst case.
Right.
And so if that truck, let's say it's the biggest truck that's allowed,
Right.
goes 1 to 6 trips over that 90-day period, what's that? 1 every 3 weeks or so, then that's considered a minor fault, and that is not.
But then why does it? In other words, if this is really shirt based
Yeah,
and not truck and weight based. The bigger the truck, the more the damage that can happen, right? So if we're also saying, hey, for minor and moderate fault, which are smaller trucks, smaller loads, smaller bonds. Then if you get larger, heavier, bigger, they're gonna move on bigger, so.
also remember too. So when you get anything like big oversized trucks, just throw it back into you operate on the interstate. And make sure it's that there is already much. Whatever, what you don't want to do is if you don't want to go, you don't want to force them. You have to get something way above what you already have there, probably doing on to me.
Irrespective of that, that's a high impact road. Of course, right, it's not probably not right, it's 1 times 10, that's not minor, that's later than that.
If you were restricting, you're already be carrying these types of problems.
Right. So I'm just talking about definitions, if we can find our terms, I think that we should find.
So the weight of the truck is capped at what the roadway is rated. So the road has to be built to manage that. So if it goes over that roadway once, the impact is never legal. If it goes over that 50 times, it becomes something that a problem, it's not a negative issue. So the way this is designed is to assume that it's the top of the cap. At these trip numbers, and this number, this information at the beginning is also to be assured that it's a legally. Permitted license.
Totally respect.
But your point is well taken, that, if it's empty, and it's going by 50 times, it's different than if it's fully loaded 50 times.
And if it's an actual reaxle, 10, whatever. But, so that's all the questions are.
Number 5, impose all route documentation. Town staff, somehow town needs to be involved, and I don't want to rely on the applicant to provide. Those with that documentation, I spoke about that at the last discussion. And then it also should outline that it includes from the West to Georgetown to. Whatever their
So if I say,
explanation is, sure, to this will be limited back, yes, so that we're not just looking at,
so if I add the words projects exceeding 5 authorized trips, shall submit. Town approved photographic or video documentation that
And it was that. Yeah, because we have to have eyes on it, we can't accept the rates, and, yeah.
And also to some recent certain things. Right, we reach.
So I mean, that's, you should have a diagram of exactly what that.
So
In that, it actually said.
Mary, I'm sorry, I missed the second part of the anything about.
that it should include from entry to Georgetown to the city limits.
Which would be exhibit A, right? I mean, like,
Because we're not just limiting it to one specific area. And then again, under call hours. I propose that weekends are more of the last option, and that they would find to encourage them to do that, or that weekends might be an exception. So that it doesn't impact not only our weekend traffic. And there is some reprieve for people who live on the truck, so that they're not having 7 days rumble going back and forth.
Why not like?
No, we don't.
it should, if you go into hours of operation, we can add it there, 7 AM to 7 PM, Monday through Friday, you can reference your. Calling hours, paragraph 9, just so that you can go there and understand.
Would you say it may be prohibited during weekends, holidays, especially that's blah, but the weekends should be an exception.
So Saturday and Sunday, should be 7.
You shouldn't even do it. I'm gonna be trying, and where, unless you say, I'm texting, I can see that.
And then just the last comment, I don't know if it's appropriate, not necessarily on the side, please, and through Jerry can tell where it needs to go, perhaps in the actual. Total when we get to that is to make sure that there is the penalty. Phase. So. Oh, okay. We're done next time.
You know, what I mean, I'm gonna be, something, how do you write that down? It's based on two items. You probably change it in I'm clock on the expression. This would be approved by that. And, you know,
I significant penalty in this one, but we've got to talk about. Even if it's a traffic related situation, now they fall back something, you know, we need to learn everybody, there's a lot of them. So,
so I'll work with Jared to write a couple of sentences about penalties or remedy. And we'll have that as item number 13.
thank you.
Nice to do. Yeah, but.
Yeah, from 13. So most of the questions were, I'm sorry, Rick, thank you, okay, we haven't ended, do you have any comments on the library?
Hi, everybody. Sorry, Emily. I've been on for about 5 minutes. I'm getting caught up. I'm just gonna listen and see where we're at.
Okay, sounds good. My questions really had to do with the definitions we talked about, which is standard hall. The permit duration is a standard hall, like by numbers, it's by truck weight, I didn't know what that was. We talked about almost everything else. Trips, the town having an oversight. I think in terms of paragraph number 8, construction of reflecting the outline, make sure that they're not parking, that parking is restricted not only residential space, probably not commercial area as well. And it is very large trucks. If we have a huge, 50 foot going up there, you don't mind that going from there. Home space section is one of these 8, paragraph 8. And so we got one of idling on commercial district on parking there and things like that.
Reading is the bond should be prohibited.
Yes.
Specifically about, are you saying that commercial areas should be prohibited unless specifically about?
I wrote, yes, because these trucks should be going up and down, they shouldn't be parking, they should be stopping, they should be going to investigating areas, and that's what I'm saying. Let's see, may require, so paragraph 12, authority to impose additional concerns. Specifically, obviously, the town's administrator. I would be stronger than the may require, unless I'm going to admit. Because I think we should require all of that, and then the other thing, I think it's traffic management plan. I think there might have actually been a traffic management plan, but you should just be minor and whatever.
I think that is pretty good. It's not like it doesn't. Can we go back to number 8, but we figured it out, because I think needs to be, and I'm a little just confused on where the commercial part is supposed to be getting. Permit holders shall submit a worker parking and staging plan. This is worker. So workers don't drive some stuff. We work. The plan shall identify employee parking locations, equipment staging areas, material storage areas, truck queuing locations, and methods to prevent obstruction of public streets. The following shall be prohibited unless specifically authorized. You're saying that parking in commercial areas it should be prohibited.
Yeah, because you're talking about truck camping, which is going to be on worker trucks. And you're talking about,
So like, a truck stopping in front of one of our services, places they can't park without an authorization.
if they're waiting for a tow. They can't park it all day.
Or like,
If it's.
yes, I know it's like, so if a delivery truck. Big 18-wheeler that says Spartan Foods and the sign is parked in the middle of 6th Street and they're unloading stuff. That's illegal unless they get special authorization.
Correct.
No, not, okay,
But that's what this would be.
okay, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
That's so are we talking about any commercial truck that company thinks they're hauling? Is this?
Hauling. Hauling products to the business and still haul.
Okay. I was
So
different.
I'm only pointing out that you would be impacting a significant amount of hauling services by saying you
Right.
can't park in commercial district.
Okay, so I was thinking of it as construction policy. I think we have to be careful about that because we got regularly there. So regular, the local regulators that come that you don't want to keep that. Exactly. Perfect. That's so good.
But are they supposed to be getting the same number?
I think that should be defined in this as to what is a regular delivery. And I don't know what the language would be, that's why we have to find attorneys to be able to help us do that. And regular directors is different than tolerant limits, you know. Yeah. So. All right. I mean, like, did you have any comment or question?
No, I was gonna ask about Cisco, but we trust.
Okay.
Okay, so I have a really good set of notes here to amend the draft with. And this item is under amended the third reading, so I propose that we can continue talking about this during the regular meeting, but. As amended, we can pass this for first reading tomorrow. I will work with Jerry to do a second reading. It's gonna be, 4 weeks. And then you can see the amendments. I'll get the amended version to as quick as I can, so you have well in advance of that set.
So I have one addition,
Yeah.
and number 12. Prohibition on engine braking release on limits, except in emergencies. I assume we're talking about reducing the J brake, you know, that. They don't use that on those issues. Regardless, they have to. Because otherwise they'll come straight down. And
We get some interest in this.
They were just slowness, so fast, I think, right? They were just.
Hello?
Wouldn't they be going too slowly?
No. They break all through,
Thanks, Steve. Well, just remember that we see.
Comfort by law.
now it says that's not gonna month or not gonna silence too.
I'll ask this as a quick question, this is, I expected this with the month, and that's why it's under the authority to impose additional conditions. Not normal conditions, so if there is an exception to this plan, this is a unique situation or a permanent application. Then we could say, wait a minute, you're not going up without pass. You just come to the town, we don't want any J breaks, we really don't buy or on Rose Street or wherever the hell it is. So we could do. But more than likely, in the normal application, we would not address that. Does that satisfy you, or would you rather just write it in paper?
It's
You know. Down the hill, we're on the flat, they're not gonna be usually. Right, so you're gonna just take that, put off the gas pipe, right? Right, it's specifically up behind us here on the switch maps. If they're gonna be safe. And not traveling down at 30 miles an hour instead of traveling down at 5 to 8 miles an hour. Particularly if they've got 80,000 pounds on their back. Then they're gonna need to brake.
So it's not really, you can see it. Yeah. Okay. So any other questions on this draft? We'll wait, give a second draft, we're gonna wait, look at these number to the meeting, I never put it up, and we do have another thing in our. Item 2, work sessions is adding recreational rentals to our downtown historic commercial district zone. And I know there's a lot of information in here. One of the questions I have, and I know we've got some support of this, and she's probably right, there's some special use. Can the town speak to the differences there, and use by right seems to make sense, especially use needs to involve property owners, and I talked about consolidation.
As a little bit of background, there was some interest shared with the town staff that. Recreational rentals would be desired for businesses in the historic commercial district. So the plan was to match this up to the existing scheduled use permit allowance to make Greenberry zoning district. So as to make equitable allowances with the owner of this zoning districts. The reason that special conditions are required for this type of use is because they differ a little bit from some of the uses by right in this district. They have unique pedestrian complex, they have requirements for storage of products. They have different noise considerations and they have also a different power consumption requirement that could impact the property itself. So by modeling it after the existing special use permit rules we gave our district, we then submitted this application to the planning commission, which has approved it. Then you can read our planning consultant, Michael Davenport. I think, is Michael on at the moment? Okay, so Monica will be available for the regularly to answer good questions we might have at staff at this time. And if you've had a chance to read through Michael's report, it's pretty comprehensive and thorough, so. Asia has any is doing anything to make track of here.
Just wanted to point out that actually there's the next.
So it attaches to the business of the property.
It also requires the provided some question and the commission work selectmen with us for the historic districts. Just to evaluate this path on the historic. That's all they do is yes and no. But the records. So we already require special use section review for reassurance.
So David, sorry, insurance, so the district special needs has to go to the DRC.
The gateway has the same special district alignment or recreational vehicles, so the process for all special uses is to go to the planning commission first and then to the planning commission to endorse that.
Okay. And so since that special use attaches to the business, not the property. That means if the business were removed, that property is no longer able to say, oh, we have special use. It attaches to the business.
Yeah, they have, this is actually put it in the pocket into another location. Operate, so
So right now, that could be a part.
it's really about, answers to that, because he's believe on that.
So in that case, I mean, the special use permit, does the business owner sign that special use permit? So is it
That's what it is. There's an application that's by business.
both together and the land? So if it doesn't attach to the property, why would the land be signed? It's almost to me.
And you're signing all this.
So business licenses as well, so it follows that's an impact.
I think Jared, will speak a little bit more legally. Towards why it's important for the landlord to sign off on this use to.
Maybe we don't want, the landlord to wake up tomorrow and realize. That, there's a new, property where there's just a lease. To each unit. With someone they don't want to happen, they would operate. And then you have when it's time to enforce, and there's a special requirement. You can enforce it both for landlord and tenant, because very often you'll get there. It wasn't my fault. Like that, you see, that's why. I mean, it's not a group.
Yeah.
At all, so it's.
We think that was on. Something that it's, yes, it's. Whoever owns it.
I see some, okay, very good. That is your separation between the landlord and the leasing there too, but I think we're misinterpreting one of our codes and I only have it pulled up on my phone, so I might be missing some of the special numbers and sections, but under the gateway mixed use district. It does not appear that we have special use for recreational sales and rentals. It is not a special use. Under 17.16.051, maybe A5, A5.
You know, you're that cascade, this is, I'm not looking for.
No, and I don't know that, I didn't print out the whole code. But so we aren't being consistent, we aren't consistent yet, so let's just keep that in the back of our mind as we proceed to this conversation. I don't think they went in Steve's or Steve.
If I missed you.
Yeah, so it's in gateway commercial.
But so again, if we're going to be making some changes, let's try to have some consistency where we can. And I think that's what they're saying. So I had a question here, is there any views by the 3 exhibits here? Exhibits 1, existing permitted and special uses, and exhibit 2. That are applying any zone district, and then exhibit 3. For application for approval of special use. Can you tell me what those differences are? It's in the CMI packet, sorry, it's page 4 of the packet, exhibits 1, 2, and 3.
So the first one is the uses by rights.
Okay, so this is,
The first one is special uses. It's not,
so that means this is existing,
this is existing,
okay,
and then we have existing special uses that apply in the zone districts, these are the large area.
meaning where I live, like, there's an,
And zone,
okay,
and then the last one is criteria for the be an application. So it's just when the planning commission or the selectmen are looking at the applications, we should consider.
any residential. Okay, so if you go back to exhibit 1, the existing permitted uses in the historic commercial district,
Yes,
we have membership club.
Yeah.
Which could include recreational facilities.
Yeah.
Okay, so what is that?
that would be like gym.
Like, yeah,
24-hour fitness.
yeah, okay. Which obviously would have equipment in there, and then we have indoor amusement and entertainment establishments. It's that,
That is like. Not being,
you know what I mean?
or trivia, when it was held in a certain location, a few years back.
Okay, and then under special uses there, it's just garages, gasolinees, service stations, dodging, and then market garden. So the idea would be to add to this special use, the recreational rental. And it can't be added as a right, it can't be added in this first section.
That's a,
Okay.
your policy choice. Well, out and uses claims. Just go with promotion. Which means there's a being started. Music by right, I don't know, trail to jump over. We get it, those license and we don't, it's pretty good.
Right.
So would use this, well, we got why you have to jump over this pressure. I'm gonna, this fleeting race. And we possibly get hired. They're usually for uses, only land, they're usually for uses that. While might be okay in those, we're not helping us in all this. We want to see. Naturally, policy for us, the boards. It's just trying to do something. That we wanna. Entertain at all. Doing this sort of commercial. So this especially used for right. Angle, it would be going pretty far to say, okay, we're just gonna make these by right, not that would.
Why is that going far? Why is that too far?
Pardon?
Why is that too far?
Because then any such any one of those. Any use like that. Is when it does the right and doesn't have to get. I mean, it was from the years of the plan, which. Board is selected, which is in here.
Right.
We don't care about that, that's fine.
that's the concept.
So 1 through 17 and 3, many of them were just used by this. You can have a bunch of churches, a bunch of arcades, you can have a bunch of gymnasiums, you can have a bunch of whatever.
Yes, let me start by, in zoning law, correct me if I'm wrong. These allowed uses, we don't do this so that we can make sure we only have real churches.
Right.
We just say that churches as a use are compatible for this part of town. Considering what's adjacent to it or what the traffic patterns are here. You know, we don't get into the business system and we're only allowing one coffee shop or one hot dog stand. For we try to make sure that these uses as they're laid out. If that purpose for us. So the question is then going back to what Terry was saying. If we have this as a permitted use by the government. How does that impact it properly? Does the property owner or landlord still have to sign off on that? We just, that's something like, is it incorporated in the lease that they use with their tenant? Or does the landlord have nothing to say about this at all? There's an tenant, do anything they want as long as it's on this list. So, please go on, we should, aside that.
I mean, the tenant. Let's say I can grab this building, and this building allows us. To sell it. Right? And I use this building to do. And one day we decide we're gonna change the sign, we're trying to sale, and we're gonna do something else. In this building, and I was inspired, right? The town would not really ask. Me, the landlord, about that, so you start up. So it. Or we have special use permitting, or we actually ask the landlord. Are you okay with adding the use here? It's not otherwise allowed. And we might not operate this.
So I want
For
to
example,
start,
right, the landlord was already kind of bought into the fact that.
because it's a little bit.
Yeah, they own a building and zones with fallen use of right. They can certainly look at that by their lease. My lease to them would say, yes, all the zones which allow them, lease of each unit with fallen, but all the sea levels. Yeah, these for the purpose of a restaurant serving number. That's all.
I'm gonna call time on this, and I'm sorry, we've got about a minute until we need to start our regular session. So I know we have one question in the audience, and Rich, I'm sorry, let me defer to something first, because we've got about literally 30 seconds.
So currently, someone could set up shop, permission from the landlord, to put like, where you can rent 30 electric dirt bikes in the historic district. Yes, the developer is just.
I was gonna say, should retail and yes, I think works the problem with that, it is to be allowable. Full out. You can use that street, that's a good point.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just like you said, no retail business, it's just, I think there's more regulation of like public bikes are.
So that would be a good example of why we would change.
Right, so I'm sorry, it's off. So, I know you guys came here, and I'm sorry that if things ran longer, but this is a very good discussion, and, I don't think it's part of our radio agenda, right?
Yes,
It is, okay, so, what we're gonna do with, under the first reading, we should have a
We
decision.
want to basically we decide so that this rolls good side, which legislation is not a public area. We can take that on, I think they on something.
We're really,
Yeah, maybe we got.
you know, something.
I would just say that we've been working on this for a long time. We know that there are interested parties in the storage district that want to see this change one way or the other. It's not a big deal. So a good idea to keep it moving ahead so we can get to our conclusions, whatever the decision is, so they can move forward.
Still doing special in our regular meeting, just follow up right now. All right, so you're beginning our work session, and we are going to go right into our regular meeting agenda. Yeah, and please rise to the pledge of allegiance. All right, I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Yes, so two, and this is the regular meeting of the board of the town of Georgetown Board of Selectmen. It is July 14th, 2026. And so, let's see, could you do the roll call, please?
Sure. Georgia Coffin,
Here.
Michael Huggins,
Here.
Amanda Cooper,
Here,
She's on.
Alex Sassoon.
Yeah.
Dwayne Gazinski,
Here.
Mary Smith,
Here.
Rich Barrows.
Thank you. Thank you very much. We have an agenda in front of us. Do we have any changes or corrections to the agenda presented? I was going to select the review of the number 5 financial items into 2 separate. Or do you want to allow that to be? So we do have corrections to that. So, we need to correct our financial items. There's 2 pages that are being reviewed. One is June 18th and June 24, not 23. And the second is June 25 to June 30, which is not on the agenda. Any other changes or corrections to the agenda? The other motion to accept the agenda as corrected. Motion. Sorry, Rich, second. Alex, thank you. All those in favor? Any opposed?
aye.
Thank you, Amanda. Okay, the agenda is approved. We do have members of the public here that I want to recognize. Members of the public may speak up to 3 minutes on topics not on the agenda, so then you get the agenda space for that, will allow the common discussion on that. Written letters will be acknowledged but not read aloud. Comments on agenda items can be submitted prior to the meeting by email and invite those Bridget. No public comment. Anybody online who wants to make? No, okay, thank you. And we'll get to, I'm assuming everybody is here for the agenda item, correct? Okay, thank you. We do not have any presentations this evening, so we'll go by that. We have your financial review. Okay, first financial review is the payable June 18 to June 24. Any comments or questions on this payable batch? I had questions that were just. Really, we know, we did. So, I guess. Maybe you haven't been collected, I'm here, I was being granted, or preliminary document mentioned. You sent the town administrator.
Correctly,
Corrected?
because they've already been through with SB to change the description, SB journal. So. Cool.
So if we can reflect that they are in the process of being collected, I'm happy with that. Okay, thank you. Amanda, any questions on that? No, okay. Very good. And the second batch is June 25 to June 30. Any questions on that line? Corrections? I am the same, I submitted some, so they're often being corrected, I'm satisfied with that. All right, no change, thank you, you have those as well. Thank you. Next up is the work session, meeting minutes and then the regular meeting minutes from the June 23rd meeting. I did not submit any edits, I think Mary did, were all of their corrections made? I'd like to ask them, you know, approval of the minutes, some of the corrections were made, but some of them needed a little bit more attention, so we could. We put that on this. Okay, Amanda, did you have any comments on the minutes?
No, ma'am.
Okay, very good. Do we need a motion to table that? Do I have a motion to table the minutes until I that motion? Thank you, Mary, second. Right, okay, right. Else need to end this time. All those in favor? Opposed?
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are tabled until they're finally united all together. All right, the first action item this evening is consideration of the appointment of Chris Holder and Sandy Honest to the Business Promotion Commission. We have in front of you the letters from both of them. You anyone have any questions on this? I know Sam's in the audience is Chris, I've not how this is not other than the. There's an. There's Sam, I'm just over the. All right, 34 pages. All right, and okay, there is a recommended motion in your packet. Can somebody make that motion? Make a motion.
I moved to appoint Chris Gilbert and Stan Ellis to the Business Promotions Commission and the full members.
Thank you. Second, Alex, all those in favor? Aye. Any
Aye.
opposed? Thank you, Amanda. Any opposed? All right, very good. Well, welcome, Sam.
Sorry, am I like all echoey when I vote? Because if you guys just want me to wave, I will. I don't want to disrupt the meeting.
Oh, no, you don't have to start me. You're good.
Okay.
Okay, item number 2, this is what we're getting, this is a consideration to bid the SP construction for the old Missouri rehab. Travis is not here to talk about this page, did you want to say anything on this one?
Mr. Platt provided an estimate for us, this for a second deployment of Missouri was reviewed by. He actually, the project manager and over it, and it was the only estimate.
Okay, so the bid is obviously for all of these things that we know needs to be fixed in that building. It's $9,920 fixed. Any questions or comments or recommendations about this?
So is this all encompassing on this slope? There's nothing after this? This is all because of. Yeah, so it's far under the
Yeah, hold on, that's good. Or we contingency, or we allocated 30, so it's roughly $20,000. All right. Any questions or discussion? There's a motion in the packet to accept this bid with some information that motion.
Maybe not,
We do it.
we'll give something good provided by asking construction incorporated or give the location work on the local thirty. At cost not to exceed $9,919.29. And authorize the police to appropriate to sign all related documents.
Do I have a second? Second.
Second.
Alex, thank you. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Amanda. Any opposed? Very good. So that consideration of the bid award has been awarded and accepted. Thank you to. We appreciate for that. Item number 3, okay, recreational rentals. We are back to the topic we had for this evening. Obviously, we've had discussion in our work session regarding the use versus use by right. We have an ordinance in front of us that is. Yeah. It's in the work stuff, like one session, I'll take that.
I have a question.
Yeah, sure.
When we asked CMI, the Community Management Institute, to look into this, did we ask them to look at the alternative to special use? Or did we just load them with the question? Yeah, there's the same pipes. We find them as zoning. This is exciting.
The staff. Made application for special use change to the Donald Publicly Historic Commercial District. What was presented to the planning commission, and as part of that, Michael was asked to provide a recommendation on that application.
Based on the special use.
Correct.
So that we not looking as
No, so we were trying to match the existing special use for the. Yeah,
However, we specifically asked at our last meeting that both. Right. Options have adequate. Research and research.
And I would suggest that actually that it's not a mutual request of CMI. It was noted.
But and I think again, it's very presented in our last meeting, we come to see us side by side, if she's very right, it's this, discussion uses this, so. Right now, when we have some ordinance before us that really is we choose special uses.
because this process was already in the way of the planning commission, so if we want to not do this and go with the police by right. Then we'll start over, we'll go back to the planning commission, because we have to. Unless the town board's not even want to do their own thing outside of planning commission recommendation. And we will go back and do that.
So what I say, I think you want to understand what the use by right, how that stacks up against special use. I think we had a good understanding here of special use or needs. The hoops that have to be jumped through, complete with it right by the use by right, then we kind of, I don't really understand why. Yeah, I'm sorry, question, would you say your name, please?
Yeah, my name is Jim Beal.
Jim,
Beal,
thank you.
yes. Yeah, so I just wanted to add a comment that I took a look at the regulations around special use in the gateway district. And the thing that really stood out to me is you're basically doing business involving tenant items, right? So furniture, we put furniture repairs there, vehicle stuff is there. But as it goes for rentals, at least like, my kind of just take on the spirit in special use and permitted use is something like renting out a pair of binoculars doesn't seem to have any kind of like weight impact. It wouldn't necessarily have like the traffic impact that the car wash would have. So, this almost goes a little back to, where we were talking about the heavy trucks versus light trucks is, if we want to rent like dirt bikes, that would, I think, align with, what a current code aims to, I guess, protect with special use. So That's just that.
Okay. Thank you. See, I want to appreciate it very much. Anybody else like to say? Was our name right, right, first discussion?
Yes, certainly.
Thank you.
If one looks at the coding as currently written. We have within each of our different zones identified. I would say 99% of the type of business in those zones. Why are we trying to restrict business by special use? There's no reason why within by right we can't put additional restrictions which would perhaps satisfy any of those worries impacting the historical business, principally we're talking about business in the historical district. But in each of those zones, we have identified every single business that are being in those areas. And to which I would point out, for example, down in the gateway, there is even in the coding a reference to a 67,000 square foot building. But we all know that that's currently what's it called, Dollar General. But it's written in a way that could perhaps be targeted Walmart or whomever because it just refers to a business. I mean, if we're identifying businesses by special right, why are we trying to create a restriction of special use units? I do want to just add it to it one's preferences.
So.
What do you think?
So we're trying to have it. That's appropriate to mirror what has been done in the way. It's already restricting the great density, national water. Open actually with storage, flat doesn't allow lots. So we think this is a very things that happen.
But I guess I'm also sure, and then I understand, is recreational rental defined as is actually the uses of the cities for rental uses? It's it is.
And then
I think it's on page 2 of the Community Matters Institute document about the top.
So while we're searching, I got something else.
Yeah.
So the staff is attempting to offer something in the most efficient way possible or acceptable by mirroring what's already in existence. We've covered that. The fact that this could be a use by right, fine, if the board makes that policy decision, staff is comfortable with that, right? No issue. We have gone a little bit further and we have talked to a landlord that is intimately involved or impacted by this, and she has explained. Whether it's a special use or a use by right. Any tenant is going to have to negotiate with her power requirements, parking lot use, and possible impact to the interior of their building. It doesn't matter to her. It's gonna have to be negotiated into her lease, and she's 100% supportive of this use happening in 6th Street corridor. She has no problems with that, but she also has to protect her lease rent. So if this is going to hinge on that consideration, that is a non-issue from our perspective, and that's why we were pushing behind the special use permit. It gives you, the board, more control over who might be the tenant that wants to do this today. Might be the most responsible, wonderful business in the world, and I would probably vouch for that fact. But the next one might not be, and it might not just be e-bikes, it might be motorized hoverboards. And if there's no control over that mechanism, it could possibly, it's okay just without coming into town for an unpaid. That could cause a problem, so we want to balance minimizing the conditions, but also with retaining a little bit of control over what that special use would be.
But we're trying to do it in the wrong way. We're trying to control e-bikes and hoverboards and
couple of years ago, segues were a big deal, and that had kind of come up in conversation from some community members, oh, that would be type thing. And it wasn't actually fun because we didn't have anyone that was ready to move forward on that. That's a separate regulation that we need to look at as a town, so how we're gonna control that in the safety aspect. The fact that we're saying that a potential business owner can't sell or distribute or rent items, then we should be limiting the amount of restaurants, we should be limiting the amount of pizza shops, we should be limiting, let's look at the impact separately than allowing the economic diversity and free enterprise to provide for this community and, it fits into the comprehensive plan. It is based on the CMI. We're talking about, I'm looking at the second bullet of the 2016 comprehensive plan. And it talks about the diversification of our economy. And we're dependent on two principal industries, tourism and local government. Now, I would hate to think that our local government's prohibited this, because that's us. But tourism includes outdoor recreation. We can't. 40 or 50 years ago, when this code was written, these things didn't exist. And so we're not trying to be prohibitive in what's going to come along the line, and that we're being too restricted, we're being big trouble that too many people don't want us to be. And we're standing in the way of our local economy by putting this extra step in. What happens between a landlord and a lessee, if he's the other one to pronounce it, that's on that. It's gonna happen anyway.
Right. But wouldn't something part of it too? No different if somebody opens a bar and people are going out and distributing themselves, no one calling her told enforce the media. Yeah, because I do kind of get caught up on certain stuff, but it is also kind of crazy to me that I could sell a custody, I couldn't rent custodies. That's odd to me.
Well, this is probably that.
No, but I'm just saying, I'm going to fix it is by whether it's, it's by right. So it's by right if I can sell coffee, but I can drink coffee. Like, that's kind of goofy, assuming from coffee, but maybe I want to make this coffee machine. Or maybe, I want to rent some EPs in the area, like seriously, I want to stay at your house, I want to rent some EPs from you. Is that not prohibited? I think it's going to change us. Are we gonna maybe we get a special use on it, just so we can find paintings instead of selling it? I get it, this is, it makes it tough.
I think the right place
I look
is
for
for the
diversity.
impact.
Yeah.
But that's separate,
But is
than
there-
allowing. To continue.
We fill all the shops and, which is restaurants and all. Imagine the impact of just all of the bars you're talking about, we doing that. We want to get impact. We can't stop that. I mean, that's the problem right now. We don't like up and up.
Here, did you have a,
I go talk.
please state your name, I'm sorry,
You say that games for fake business. But I agree with Perry. It seems like we're always doing all kinds of restriction, businesses. And we need to support this. This is not illegal. We should. You support the use of the heat pumps and all that. You mean, these guys are putting every great business they got. You're just gonna. Give everybody a bad attitude. If you start restricting everybody's businesses on what they can rent and do it for the business, then you're gonna go. But I agree with Mary.
Yeah.
You shouldn't sell these spread. You said,
thank you. Up on that topic, please share by I just point this out. Recreational rentals are his right, rental of the primarily used for one. So that seems to me, if we make that use by right, that's restricted. That's saying here's what the use by right will be limited to. It's not going to be motorcycle, it's not going to be car rails, it's not going to be a lot of these other things that you are concerned about.
It does say it's use.
Well, we can change that, right? We can have our own use by right, which is more restrictive or more definitive. We also, right, so if you look at the existing use by rights in our historical commercial zone district, we can have 10 arcades.
Right.
We can have 10 gyms. So what's different about having 10 rental places? I don't see the qualitative difference to use by right. I think the use by right makes sense. We can allow for things to happen, and irrespective of the standard, that landlord's going to do what that landlord's going to do, irrespective of the use by right or special
Right.
Now, I want to talk for a second. Amanda, did you have this comment?
I'm going to be honest. I'm having a hard time hearing all of the panelists. I can hear Mary the best. I think the one thing that I am wanting clarification on is if we push back towards a use by right situation, was I clear that that was going to have to go back into planning and DRC, or would we be able to expedite that? I do understand the nuances between the two issues. And I agree that we don't want to stifle any commerce in our current economic climate. And I'm a free enterprise person myself. And so I agree that that's how we need to take this approach. But I do respect the fact that we have local codes that have to be adhered to. So I'm just not very clear on timeframes, honestly, because I'm having a very hard time hearing. I can't hear my side of the room very well.
So, speak up when you speak and like.
Yeah, yell
Sorry.
for me.
Yes, I answer, but
Yes.
the board of selectmen has the authority to tonight say, instead of this, we want to just maybe go forward with second reading and approve. They can bypass the planning commission and not go back. It's perfectly within your authority to do so.
The planning commission was approached though with the intent to write a code for special use. They too were not given the options laid out as we have been discussing.
We can discuss use by right. And not discussion, just, I mean, I
Understand,
understand,
but
but
the information was presented to them more looking for special use than changing the codes and recommendations.
they were uncomfortable with them and the lack of use, but I think it was just,
But what I'm hearing them say is that we don't have to go back.
No, and the staff doesn't have any objection to that at all. I'm communicating that that's not a big thing. It's totally fine. It's not really no only on thing in the movie either. It's different, simply in the whole process.
The CMI had anything that they might add to this conversation that we haven't discussed. Is that what's here in my life? Is that everybody else?
I'm just interested.
Okay, just so that we have a whole. Direct. So, I'm sorry, what was the name of the person?
Michael Davenport. Michael Davenport.
Thank you. To Mike Davenport, can you hear?
I'm sorry, good evening. Could you repeat the question to me?
Yeah, no, we were just introducing you and saying we're glad you're here and we were acknowledging you and hoping to hear from you on these issues. Use by right versus having special use permit.
Okay, you've already covered a number of things that are in the memo, so I'll speak directly to the question you asked. And I'm Mike Davenport with Community Matters Institute. We're a planning consultant to the town. The main difference between a permitted use, which many people call use by right, and a special use is that normally there isn't any kind of hearing required for a use by right or what's formally called a permitted use. A special use does require a hearing, and as is stated in your land use code, the reason for that is there is an assumption that the use is probably okay, but you want to check to make sure there aren't any types of adverse effects that might come from the use. So what you're checking to see is this the appropriate location? It isn't going to cause a disturbance to the neighbors. And you have a list of criteria in your existing code. You actually have a very thorough list of saying, these are all the things we will look at. So you have pretty wide discretion in saying, does this fit into the historic commercial district or not? Now, the idea of starting with it as a special use, and there are other communities that just make it an accessory. So they say if you have, say, this type of business, it's allowed as an accessory use. But in this case, the idea of the special use comes from the fact that in your plan, you say that, as is obvious, is that it's very important that Georgetown protect and preserve its historic character. So as you introduce other uses into the town, this is a way of seeing how well they work. Now, one of the things that's specifically suggested in the memo is referring to having this use only occur inside of buildings, because what often happens in communities, and businesses quite, reasonably want to be able to put their wares out on the sidewalk if they can. And that's where you have to make that judgment is if you were to start getting a lot of things on the sidewalk in front of buildings, is that going to affect the historic appearance of the downtown area? So there are different options, but this was sort of suggested as a starting point, treat it as a special use, and you could come back later and maybe change it or broaden how this use happens within the historic commercial district.
Any questions for Mr. Davenport?
That, like you said, with, being on the sidewalk stuff, that could be a totally different argument.
Yeah.
So that's not. Exactly.
So that's what you want.
That's,
So, not to belabor this, right? So you mentioned it as an accessory use. What's an accessory use? I don't know. Somebody did.
An accessory use means it is customarily something that goes with a particular type of business. And so this is, for example, if you had a recreational for sale, you had a business of selling recreational goods, it would be common to say, okay, you can also have a rental business at the same time. There's a rough idea, it's not stated in the code, but there's a rough idea that an accessory isn't taking up more than 10% of the business area that you're talking in. There is no specific limit, but there's kind of this idea is that you have a main business, which say is selling recreational equipment, but then you also as well have a part of your business that rents equipment. So that's the idea and the difference between a primary use and an accessory use.
And does that require a special use permit or is that a use by right? And how does that work?
Well, with a special use permit, you basically have to go through a hearing process. In the memo, I'm just going to move to that section briefly. In the memo, it refers to what are the steps that you have to go through in order to get approval of a special use. And that is basically going to the planning commission, and they conduct a hearing and they look at the special use and they compare it to the criteria and they determine should the special use be approved.
So does an accessory use require that same process?
An accessory use normally does not have a hearing process attached to it. In other words, it's like a use by right. It's not the main use, but it's a use that is commonly and appropriately closely related to the use by right. In other words, the example of selling recreational equipment, the idea of having an accessory use of renting it is saying that, no, that doesn't require a hearing either. Just like the primary use, which is a permitted use, does not require a hearing. An accessory use normally does not have a hearing unless you put in your code that the accessory use is also a special use. It doesn't have to be, and that's a decision you can make.
So is there a downside to a right by use being added for recreational rentals?
From my standpoint as a planner, if you were saying that it is an accessory use and you still include the provision which is in the memo of saying, but that use has to be within the building, so you don't wind up with a lot of things parked in front of the building, that would not seem to be a problem. The original idea of the special use that was suggested is it's a more cautious approach.
Okay, so there is no downside, what I'm hearing, if I hear you correctly, is that there's no downside to adding use by right or making it an accessory use to a permitted use.
If you lose the option with the special use, you actually have a fairly complete set of things that you're going to look at, because the way that there's a definition in this proposal which says what recreational rentals are. Now, someone may come up with something none of us have thought of. And that may be the type of thing you're saying, okay, this is something that maybe we need to review rather than just saying it's okay as a recreational rental. That's where that would come into play, is that it's something you hadn't anticipated, but if you had, you may not have wanted it to be something that could occur without a hearing.
Understood, thank you. Any other questions for Mr. Davenport? Thank you. I know we have people here, like the hearing, you know, like, do you have anything, Ryan or Alec to say, or anyone else?
Out Fleischer. Our operator and everybody seeing 6126th Street. First of all, thank you guys for taking the time to talk over this matters. What we have to say in consideration.
And if you could speak up, I'm sorry, just so many because
Absolutely. Believe that Georgetown's future success depends on balancing historic preservation with economic viability. Outdoor recreation rentals support tourism, we promote healthy lifestyles, attract visitors, and reinforce Georgetown's positioning as a welcoming gateway to Colorado's winters. We are looking to keep up with Colorado towns that are already allowing recreational rentals as community use by right to be Breckenridge, Fresco, Estes Park, Leadville, Silver, and many others. So what Mike was saying, in most cases, rentals are considered a part of a retailer's yes, that the accessory use. In that precedent, it was already said in the Orange County mixed use commercial historic district. Mixed use gateway district. Benefits the town. We believe are there would strengthen local economy, including restaurants, retail, lodging providers, and real estate value in the towns. Supports sustainable tourism, allows tourists to experience Colorado tours with no barrier to entry purchase. Most from theater is very expensive, and we like being shared with a lot about the city and others. Increasing year-round economic activity, which is the reason why not brought this business to town. We showed up there, everybody said they're Georgetown guys, and looked here coming from ski towns. We believe there is suffering that can be fixed. In summer, bicycles, hiking equipment, fishing gear, backpacking, and camping gear can be left to it. In the fall, hiking, sightseeing, knitting equipment. In winter, cross-country skiing, snowshoeing, and contraption devices are useful to tourists. In the spring, hiking, fishing, wildflower, complements historic downtown businesses. Outdoor recreation rentals as only Georgetown's small town historic area. Similar businesses operate successfully in historic town communities throughout Colorado. We contribute to better downtown streets, prevent restaurant and retail leakage from town. Also encourages small business development. Allowing outdoor rentals by right relieves unnecessary regulatory barriers for entrepreneurs and existing businesses seeking to expand services for residents and visitors. And if you guys will see what we have to say on this, we go to make serious pass through. It's senior costing.
Well, thank you very much. We really appreciate it. Nice being here. We appreciate it towards the interest always if we have people show up. It's a very nice day for the Board of Selectmen to be in the town to know that we have engagement and that people care and want to show up about various matters. I want to go to Amanda real quick. Amanda, any questions on that? No.
No, I'm just trying to weigh through everything in pieces.
Okay, thank you. Got
You've got one more audience member that I just saw because I can see the whole room.
Oh, no, I saw the words hand go. Thank you. If you don't mind saying, I have to say you again.
Lauren Borger. I just wanted to know that this past week, where I am out. Are there snake shootings? And I went up to the top of Vanilla, got to experience it. I can't see normally, so this is a nice middle ground. I came back down was starving, got something to eat, was in a good mood, went to a shop, bought something from China, shop. And just like in general was like in town way more than I would have been that day. I would have just like sat home house and then not gone out. Instead, I spent money in town because of but because of that rental. In addition to that, when I talk to people about visiting Georgetown in the winter, I can now say you can ski up Winella and you don't even have to have anything to do it. You can just come to our coffee shop, get a coffee, and go get your rental, go on Winella and get to experience like activities out there that is a nice in between from like real skiing and like if you're not capable of doing that and they give you this middle ground that is like going to cause some more boards, having people be happy in Georgetown, there's something they do for a few hours, keeps you here, and then you can come back down and enjoy 6th Street. So I think that like you have to think about how many businesses are currently operating on 6th Street and how many have closed just in the past year. And think about the fact that we have 2 amazing entrepreneurs that not only have a successful coffee shop that is open, I think, the most out of any business in town, and then want to have a rental business in addition to that. So if they can bring the success of the rental business that they brought to this coffee shop, that's 2 very successful businesses in town that we don't have just really great.
Thank you. Absolutely. Yeah, appreciate your comment. Thank you very much, Laura. And again, I just appreciate everybody's interest and the fact that everybody's learning. Alice.
Thanks for that. Look, the one word that I've heard coming out of various people's mouths this evening is e-bike. We're not talking about e-bikes specifically.
We're still.
Exactly. This is about a rental, recreational rental, which includes e-bikes. And if we go down the route of a special use, then how are we going to deal with e-bike just parked outside there, which obviously is privately owned, you know, parked on the sidewalk? By the way, you know, to me, we're just trying to be restrictive and not open to promoting business if we go down as special use.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, any other comments or?
So,
Yes, Rich.
so we don't have to change anything. And we can allow her.
No, we have
You
to.
don't have to have any problem.
Right.
Okay.
I have
So we motion to proceed. I just wanted to make sure.
This
I understand the right thing.
You change almost the motion that's here, we agree on this, and the use by right as opposed to a special use. And then we just need to really work on some language in between for the second reading.
let's call it. You don't like to say, let's agree to call it permitted use instead of use by right. And I would suggest that you consider using the definition that Montpelier has included with minimal range, which I think is pretty comprehensive,
Which is the,
less restrictive.
which is the one that seems to be adopted by the federal government.
Yeah.
Yeah, that one.
Yes.
Well, and that's the stuff, and again, you have suggested, Dennis. Most recently, that as we change and amend these codes or add new codes, that we put them on the radar to revisit it here. So that we can determine how it's best, yes.
Can I just ask a clarifying question? Because I'm so, and I apologize. I think that 90% of this is just that I can't hear very well. If we vote tonight to approve on the first reading, and I know we still have to go through second reading, the special use, will that negatively impact any of the current applications? Are there any applications in review that could be impacted by that? Are there any applications that have a denial that is there? Or will it allow the interested parties, because I know there's several, to be able to move forward with applying for their special use permits?
Well, Amanda, I think where the conversation is going is not towards special use.
No, I get that. Okay, gotcha. That's
Yeah,
okay. So
so-
now I'm clear on that. But if we go,
Yeah.
so if we, but there's like no denials or anything out there, like nothing's looming, right? That you could.
The reason this is in front of you today is because
There is no permitted use of any kind for.
Understood.
recreation.
That's what I needed to understand.
Yeah.
Thank you
Yeah.
very much. I'm good now. I apologize. I wasn't able to be there in
No.
person tonight. Thank you for
Don't
bearing with me.
apologize. You're fine, Randy. Thank you. So, I'm gonna read what I think is the motion, and if there's, you know, use some of this language, and we can see if this is what what this board wants to entertain at this time. So the motion would be to approve ordinance amendment number 7 on first reading, allowing recreational rentals as a permitted use in the historic commercial zoning district, using the definition of recreational rentals as put forward by CMI. So move. I'm sorry, was that Mary? Sorry.
And I have to,
Yeah,
in your packet, ordinance number 7 is on all of
okay, so.
that. So this is probably ordinance number 8. Where's all of them?
I usually have it by the number. You'll find one of it, that's- I'll submit my motion to reflect the appropriate appointments number. Or,
Number 8.
thank you.
Last
Okay, you second. Frank Wayne, thank you. Any discussion? All those in favor? Any opposed?
Right.
Thank you. Very good. That motion for recreational use permitted use. Passes, thank you all for your attendance today, for your additional comments. I really appreciate it. Thanks for staying. You are welcome to remain tonight.
It's fun to keep me out.
Yeah, please hang out. So you're welcome to.
That's right, you can't
Right
rent now.
I know. They don't. I was getting up, but I could do the I don't. It's not that. Yes, okay. Yes, Al.
Personal recreational rentals is not as per the community matters issue, it is as per state and federal.
Thank you for making that clarification, and that I did, thank you for saying that. Okay, so item number 4 on your agenda. This is ordinance amendment number 8. Did you change?
Right.
This becomes number 9. Attending Georgetown Municipal, this is a hauling.
Yeah.
Yes, so we had water registration on the street. So, I know that we really had some, apprehension changes this year. Obviously, the application changes we have to appear in the ordinance. Please, yeah. Mhm.
You know, looking at the, all their,
Right.
which kind of opposite issue as we. What's in the packet is the code sections. But really are, the rest of the cities, they're the enabling authority. The administrator and the staff, we do all the things, we, right, do all the stuff we talked about. And maybe making it the draft all around permit form, we think that's. Before tonight, I structured this ordinance to usually be that in the neighborhood. You already have some of the stuff in the book. And I thought to myself, let's not replicate the giving all route permit into the book.
Right.
Let's give the board and the administrator the authority to do that. So that's this ordinance spells, and it picks up on those sections that you're gonna have to authority. So the commission is starting this. And more than anything, it's starting out dimensions and the other things we talked about. Doesn't mention them all, and I don't think we should. And but importantly, it grants authority kind of misleading. We adopt them from time to time revise that all route permanent dot, which is what you're gonna be after the revenue detail. And that way it doesn't, you don't have to replicate all our detail.
And does the code need to add the penalty in the section though?
Yeah, it's the.
I mean, if we need, we state it in the application, so that everyone knows, but it doesn't, you need to have some hoops to our code. When we want to make sure the content being a part,
I'm sorry.
I'm sorry.
Mayor's question is important. When we look at the family segment, the order, because the VAT, the unlisted curriculum in that, right, we figured all the, we said violation is a penalty is in this report. So I'm not sure we need to do that, I agree. But we make it more, because what we're seeing again, of course. Already the code says, any person operating a truck on permit, required permit, in violation of the permit from the district, when violation of the part of this chapter of the code, shall be subject to prosecution. So we've got. For we built in the code.
Okay. So, you know that we have watched before support this ordinance. We round out, we're going to be looking at a advisory draft of permits. Anything else that anybody wants to comment on for this ordinance tonight?
By the way, I think our second meeting, obviously, we have a company meeting, second meeting, which is. Would it be wired, enhanced and very active version, that version of the all around.
Okay. Any other questions on this? Any questions on this? Calling department or ordinance? Okay, very good. Any questions from the board members?
Which ordinance, the 730?
I know I'm.
Mine.
It's actually. Any other questions? There's a motion in your packet. It's someone like to make that motion, and remember, it's ordinance number 9.
Don't use the word of the ordinance,
Strike it.
ordinance.
Okay. I'll make that motion. Bring the bigger notice to lighten it up, ordinance number 9, and then in section 10.13.060. The Georgetown Municipal Code of Ordinances concerning all about regulation, permit conditions on first. Do I have a second? Thank you, Alex. Any discussion? All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Amanda? Aye. Okay, good. Any opposed? Thank you. All right, passed on first reading. Thank you very much. I will give my police judge report and we're going to be going to the board of selectmen reports. I went to the town, Tri-County workforce meeting that was very interesting. There's actually dog education knowledge, but these people in the county did great. Soccer went on really well. We have our rights manager here. Emily Burton, they speak to that. We Crossick did some work that day, and that worked really well. We had some PT going on, and that was very exciting. We've been working on lighting, which you have heard about, and maybe that's just speaking more about actually not. Cindy Neely award dinner was held, and that went really well. She was very well vetted and acknowledged all of the things and many of the things that she has done over the years here. Emily and I were on KRGT radio. I'm July going, and that went really well. It's like radio personalities. We showed up and said, "Oh, we dressed for video." That went well. July 4th was just a wonderful day. It was really too good. And we talked to that. The Clearfield County Scholarship Group has met and talking about how to ensure it's better on the poverty level for awards scholarships. That seal day was held in the Shelter area is great. That's fun event, and the town was really well used. A lot of events, which is very exciting. Some more for Saturday is going to be by Jan and Max. Max, that's the jerky store that time, the jerky. And it is their 10-year anniversary, so come out and also Hotel the Perry is doing a wonderful ice cream social event. And then we'll talk about that too on the scene. So that is my update for board of selectmen. Let's start with Wayne.
I'm not reading whatever next housing getting bottom up.
Okay, thank you. We have 6,
1 mile an hour, I'll real 6.
719. Did you get it? I thought it was here this week.
Thursday, we saw it Thursday.
I haven't heard anything. Wayne.
I was so crazy busy inside.
So we are not gonna do it this
I
way.
always thought you might improve. Can we still do it, Bruce?
I'm gonna say there's no time.
Yeah, we haven't put nothing out about it.
Okay, we're gonna.
So wait, is SIPs happening? Is SIPs happening or not?
No.
Did anyone think to tell the venue that was hosting SIPs that SIPs wasn't happening?
Wait,
So
you must have wanted me to tell her that we're not.
Yes.
I've seen it. Right, but this, if you postpone it, it's fine to, because it's not enough, you're not.
So we have to have an understanding.
Yeah, I've also mentioned it to several people, so I, you know, this is.
Okay, then we work your magic. We do it, so I'm gonna take a minute, because that's so we're pretty more personal.
It's,
I'm sorry, one more time.
Is that enough? To have SIPs on the 19th, that we go ahead with that?
No, it's the Thursday, right, it's the
16th, I'm sorry.
so it's this Thursday at Cooper's at what time? I need to post a notice.
16th. Do we know what we're?
It is happening?
Yes, if it's happening, to that longer through, waiting to host.
Okay.
Thank you, Madeline. 6 p.m. on Thursday, this Thursday.
I will be there as a bartender.
Okay. Very good, thank you. All right, Mike, any updates? You just had to make you see it, like last this month. Since yeah. Oh, can you share? Why do you? Here, so
Yeah, hold on. So, the last meeting, we discussed further the Georgetown seal. Had some discussions on that, that's still in reverse, waiting for redesign. Like improvements, and then. Some fun was canceled. What was canceled? SUP4.
Oh, yes, under 4 feet,
Exactly.
you're the board.
And then we have to hear about the new appointees that's basically approved today.
Hey, we're hosting a show.
And we're hosting a Shrek tomorrow.
Yeah.
No, we're just going to Shrek, there's going to be focused on that archway positioning. The gateway, and there's going to be a community center. Wednesday, tomorrow at 5:30.
5:30.
Yes.
And that's been posted and we updated.
Thank you.
Thank you there. All right, Alex, do you have a report?
Sure. We have a SIPs meeting, from 6 p.m. this time, held at Cooper's. All are welcome, not just Ward 2. And, let's hope the community comes down and spends lots of money in Cooper's.
That's right, and I reached out hopefully. Where it needs to be a side connect and advertise meetings. Not I see.
Yes.
Well said, sir. Thank you. Rich, any report?
And a couple of things, I just said, I haven't got the agenda yet for October for, 70 conferences, which is, something that Federal Highway Administration have put together. And it's consensus. They give us a heads up on what some of the future projects might be sent down to the coalition from Denver, Bolton, all the way to Grand Junction. So I'm pretty excited about that. Cindy Neely gave me a lot of homework, so I will meet Spalding Fair representing Georgetown for that. I went to a fire authority meeting, which I thought was interesting because it had some vacancies on that board for quite a while. And I talked someone into drawing and applying, and they got a reject letter in 28 years we've been a firefighter and paramedic before they came. And they got a reject letter and it didn't say why. What? In the public comment I asked, because they have George Martin. Joined, another county commissioner has now joined that board. Get an alternate that's a county employee, I'm not sure if it's HR or not, be to possibly join the board, and they had someone else that works for the I think it's a grant writer that works for the county that also joined the. I saw a true, yes. And I asked them if they were gonna reject volunteers, that they not just said reject letter. Put them to survey, fireplace with, but maybe actually give them a phone call, if people want to volunteer. With these positions, and they have a lot of open positions in the county for volunteers. They should handle it with a more personal approach. We'll see if we follow up on that, they have to be tomorrow night. And we'll find out more about that process.
Thank you. Yeah, just a quick one, Rich and I were contacted by one of the residents of our ward today who had some extreme concerns about the park development down at the in their park. And so I reached out to Dennis to get some clarification on it. Our resident was concerned that they were dumping soil into the lagoon, of course, which we spent so much money to have dredged. So Dennis, I'm gonna put you on the spot here. Can you kind of give us a maybe overview of that rather than you kind of leaking the text and so, but I just wanted to bring this up because I know, you know, we talk about park and everything, so.
So I was eating up. And then my back phone went off. And I said, holy cow, I have to rush to the.
Because now.
So I went down there and luckily, the freight things, they were down there working and they were installing the lippy flat sign down there, which is taking care of getting break. They have a whole ton of plantings that they have ready to go on stage, and that is great to see. And then up at the lagoon, they are installing a trench to put in a stormwater piping, which will collect stormwater on the site and then it drains into the lagoon. So to do that, they had to alter the lagoon shoreline a little bit. And then if you go out there by now, they'll have silt fences up along where they have started that construction. So they will install that pipe and they will come back and they will complete that landscaping investment as it was to be built. One thing that I don't think a lot of people know, if you've ever been out there, you see the first thing everybody sees is the mobile security cameras that are up on the pole, right? And evidently, if that has been going on lately, years for every day, that's going in donuts in their vehicles, they damage whatever work was done in the fire today. And so it's really good for them to be able to record, and look back and place this during the majority, but else, but they also have a firm on contract, an environmental firm that comes out every 2 weeks. That inspects what they're doing to make sure that they aren't violating any kind of environmental rules and regulation. Especially those that apply to preservation of the lagoon. So I'm very happy and satisfied with pass that information on to Mary. She's going to share really interested resident. But if anybody ever sees anything that's going on, even if it's questionable or we don't understand what it is, it's always good to contact somebody at the town or your selectmen to ask the question so you can disseminate that information. Because not a lot of people know how much work is going into just observing what's going there when you're at that site. And then you'll remember a couple months ago, it came in that they're having windstorms and they were blowing rocks through. So that also is in the interest of ours to make sure that they're managing the sidewalks under construction properly.
When was the last inspection? I mean, you say it's every 2 weeks.
I don't know. He doesn't share that with us unless there's an issue we ask for.
I have a question, luckily, a lot of that isn't in blacktop. If it was, is there a satellite line that was there, maybe, so that way, if you have a stormwater event and it's coming on the road in blacktop, the amount of lead and toxic chemicals that are on roadways, washing right into the lagoon, creates a environmental. I'm not sure if there's a set of increase, or if that's being monitored, or if that's part of this being advised.
Building the dock. When we expect to move the dogs along to.
Right, but will that create an equalized situation when you're talking about environmental, if you are having dogs, dog feces, a lot of it, it's internet. Yes, and I'm hardly any, that's what I'm like, you turn, turning quickly into shit. That, I think that has to be looked at and monitored because, it was already an issue.
Anyway. We will ask why you created about that, and I'll report back to you on it.
All right, Amanda, did you have a report?
My only report is that I was honored to assist Anna Lee with the 4th of July parade, and she did the most fantastic job. And it was a parade for the ages, and we were still sending floats when people were coming back. There was when you came back, Georgia, and a couple floats that were behind you came back as the last floats went. But Annalie did an incredible job. It was an honor to work with her, and I'm very happy that next year I can just retire and watch the parade because she knows exactly what to do now.
Thank you. All right, Amanda, thank you very much. Next up, town attorney, Mr. Dahl.
The one before I do have is, community center. Was on my patrol here, I ordered going by the wall. We don't need to see that, we want the requirement to be filed that with the account. Franchise complete, and I got that by policy, if the applying is exception. I've gone through it. It's a really pretty clean, private policy. That was a long time. The building, usually my because there's a. You know, with sale, and finding communities, and then 1976, 70, selling them the building, which formerly been across the street, where the county building is now, and so everything like we sell somebody a used car, I guess. And so, yeah, I guess it could be a recreational rental. That's a stretch, I'm sorry, that's too much, the road's too hard. So I prepared draft solution with various documents needed here for the transfer. So it's going to be really something that we can sign as soon as I clear some of the exceptions of the traffic. And you'll get it set up for closing that. And also we do a real sale, but not before the building because the building's attached to the ground. We get that in the TV. But I did a building sale for the contacts. We're showing where they basically were, and that was covers the stock. Sales when you're in business, it's very, that's true, we got, it covers all that. And so it's in good shape and setting up the next meeting or two already report you that, transaction.
Thank you.
That's my report.
What was the sale price and when it's we service?
Who's been, about for the for the building, that's, I'll let you know next meeting, I just.
That's
I
not
read the-
inflation.
Yeah, I read it, 50 weeks later, that's, yeah, but I wasn't looking for the number, I called the rest of the negotiation. There might have been $10 another good value.
Yeah.
So, the town is getting a property, $2.86, some 26. And you know, if that was what they said, what's the 26 cents? We don't know, but it's like to be. One next 26 that. Here, it's come here, I will say the planning report pulled up a couple of. Leases and temporary leases of the community centers. Meeting room before the council is dying or English spirit got that. We also investigated as a temporary. Emergency evacuation. I'll go ahead and provide for those to be terminated by the communities. But further the town, we'd like to sort of satisfy it. Want to have something like the same as. Yeah.
Emergency ones we
Well, it's in the Navy account. And not probably. Those are ongoing, 2 ongoing Leases the. Will be, to the rest of the. Yes, quite. Once the time. Thank you. Thanks.
Yes, you can.
Jerry, is there any updates on the existing court case and appeal?
Oh, good question. It was set for alarm people, I think. But I'm glad you asked me, because that is something that we welcome to the standard for 30 years. And let me make a note, so to speak, with definitely standing that they're getting time and location. And I'll tell the word out. Court of Appeals allow us. There are all our names and minimum. It's pretty short, it'll be half hour, it's like 15 minutes. And it's probably one of, in 4 cases that we do that way. But all of them, when they're joining the music, we are. I think, yeah.
Okay, you're the board, our town clerk, you have submitted your report, anything you want to add or talk about?
The only additional thing I wanted to add is that I received the application materials from Jamie for the Alpine Festival. She is getting her official certificate for a nonprofit called Ripples for Impact that's sponsoring some of their applications. So as soon as she submits that to me, we'll be able to start processing. I'm also going through and trying to get minutes signed and updated on the website for a couple of the commissions that have fallen behind for 2026 on those. Yeah, I think otherwise my report covers everything.
What's the date on that? Sorry?
October 10th, I want to say, but don't quote me on that. Yes,
What was October 10th?
Alpine Fest, the chili kickoff.
Okay. And this is Saturday, no test.
It's the Sunday, not the Saturday, right?
It's Saturday, specifically that's not.
Okay.
It's early October.
Thank you very much. All right, you're on our marketing manager, you're reporting on standing up and this week. It's very difficult for people when everyone's back here, you want to come forward. So you can hear the other classes here. I know, right? Anything you'd like to, I'm not gonna do, back on the board, what was down, I worked on that, all of that.
And all really good feedback on the board, spent the last couple weeks, 2 weeks, I should say, briefing, very good people. The board overall got some really good data from the county that showed that Georgetown overall has people and need more people. So whether that be from the lake to the historic shirts, we definitely have some adjustments to make for activities and things like that. We got some good valuable feedback on that. Especially with the state members we still have that right now. So I really appreciate that from everybody, but that's
I thought it was terrific. It was the longest 4th of July parade, which was noted earlier, that I think we've ever had, or had in years.
but it moved well.
It's so real good. About this where we had some authors that it was like, very exciting. So I think it. Anything upcoming you want to talk about? I know you're going to challenge and answer.
Again, let's touch base on the pocketbook. The pocketbook grant that we're doing is up for the governor's award this year. So at the governor's September, we will find out if we won that. So obviously, there's time to get a better and large contribution as well.
Right.
Upcoming, we do have Colorado Day. That is in partnership with Pioneer. We're kind of navigating police getting one on 6th Street. So we do have a car show for that. We do have a dump tank. So if anybody is interested in living in the dump tank for an hour, that is an option as well. We have some community members that will be involved with that. Trading was the cost 31 for each year. Beyond that, s'mores, like Jordan mentioned. Workshops are being important. We miss the trends for their anniversary. They do have a letter from for that. So we all have it very few jobs. All my corner is going to be 3 times. So
They will have traditional forms as well as things. We're kind of running into issues with little huts. People don't miss it next year, yeah, there's no, right, yeah. Yeah, and then, yeah, like we said, the hotel will have ice cream, s'mores ice cream. And, yeah, we are now, we're really working with Road and Bridge, on making sure that when we have barricades up, it's still welcome, making sure visitors. I think, you know, it's a great concept to have people walking around and stuff like that, we just wanna make sure that they know where they can park and things like that. Right, and that's not blocked off, it's just, they are saved for the other reasons. Thank you. Any questions, Ben? I don't know. No, you're good. You're good. Thank you. Huge charging support, if you can mind also standing up for the disconnection video on clearly. Thank you. We have the report here, and then you've got lots of information in there.
Thank you. So,
Thank you.
appreciate the report. Thank you. Starts set, no, things.
Okay, thank you. What's the unauthorized STR? Is that one of those that we had complaints?
Unauthorized this year, but I've been on the, trying to track down on. Permit holder. A company that we keep it in check, probably didn't have an open to, I call her. Act like 1 and 2 months place in Georgetown for a weekend and. They said they had 2, but one of them was not an actual STR. Only. The 2 that advertised, one is an actual STR, the other one is not, so my owner of that one.
Very key and let them know.
They don't do it, please.
Does the other one attach to the address or the person?
Yes, so we-
It's a little bit of history and. Thank you, Kim.
You're welcome.
I appreciate that. A sweet vacation, you don't have a support or you do? A work vacation, or can you just look?
Nice to know she's in.
Well, thank you very much.
Okay, so. Normal stuff is press field game, we have a big from the 15th floor for the register. And 2016, we have a hot pace, so this is steady. In the 65. Code enforcement will be stagnant while I was gone. We have the Dole Award, which was awarded, she received an email for that as well, so that goes to for the chief elected official. So even I have to get better to finish doing that.
Okay, great.
And it's submitted, it's approved.
No, that's great. I heard about that, the mayors and commissioners when you was.
You heard about our public there.
We don't remember, yeah. I'm not ready now. It was Rebecca, they one of the commissioners who mentioned it.
Oh, that's a different house.
Okay, that's it. All right,
We
great.
stopped awarded like. 3 o'clock. You got
Oh.
3 o'clock, 7.
All right, well, then, no.
No. I think this guarantee, so it's not.
Thank you, sorry for the interruption.
No. The DRC was working on reformatting the guidelines for design of the meter into the easier to format. They're chunking it out, so it's like all of the regulations for gates and fences are in this section. All the regulations for windows are in this section, so most people who come to us are just doing like the 1 meter project, and then for our house, this one. But Brent Danzer is saying that last parts in that they're not making any actual policy changes, just format changes, and if they do decide to identify any policy changes, those are going to be come before it needed to adopt. Staff is working with Mr. Malik on an encroachment request that the planning commission is reviewing that on July 15th, which is tomorrow. And staff is also working with the sheriff's office to develop an evidence management plan, because we still have some evidence based on storage, and some Colorado Bureau of Investigation that looks at that. We also met with an HR services vendor, working on getting the methods for that. This one was more visible, I told you, I got closed. The city website. the same amount of money, this one is not. Utility billing went out, working with our accountants on getting bank statements from our, not evergreen, which is already their bank stuff, where it's some of our investing accounts. And, you know, thank you guys for approving that first reading on the special use. I just wanted to mention that there is someone who's applying on the gateway district for the same special use. So without starting a discussion, I just wanted to let you know that one of the suggestions on the second reading is to also amend the gateway district.
That sounds fair. Thank you. Thank you, gentlemen. All right, there, great, sorry. At our last meeting, when we were talking about that Prop 123 and the distribution of the different affordable housing units, you were gonna follow up on a question that we had, and you may not have had time when it was time, as far as what was that cap on the units long term. So next time, thank you, information, and sorry, apology. All right.
And I got something else to add. Like my report.
Okay, any questions on Dennis report? Apart from the whole time? You thought, what I'm there for, okay. No question, sure, you want to embellish?
Nope, I had organized a meeting with one Nicholas, who knows the build time. It was just an exploratory discussion about what we can, what we're trying to be back. All I can say right now is that listen to challenges, it's almost weeks around, I don't know the entire board.
I think they approached us a couple of years ago with some astronomical amount of money that they thought that we needed to do in order to bring that about. Which was not accurate time by PPC or the town. So organizers. This is going to come to vision.
And I should be split right now.
Yeah, well, say no, just.
Say no.
I'm just sharing the background, yeah.
Also have a couple hours in my meetings.
We'll tell those.
I know there is.
Okay. Great, thank
Who's
you.
going along the lines of the speed curve?
Right.
Used to have to there for many years, it's out, it's working. They would go up in the comments. No,
It's not a race.
We'll solve it.
it's a time trial.
It's not. Okay, so on the rainwater collection, because we're under a water restriction, we're looking at every way that we can these operations in the most practical way. And so we are investigating collecting rainwater at the bridge and using that maybe the water flowers and park communities. There are significant restrictions on collecting rainwater in the state of Colorado, so it's. So you're right, finding out what we can think.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
We were thinking about collecting it and renting.
So, any other items for discussion in your comments? Are we gonna give new dates on some of these other CIP projects where they're planning, they're waiting, it's under design, OTA, like sort of things? Like when?
The city, they have assembled their teams and manage all these projects that we are asking them to do. And so they are moving forward a lot faster now, they have 14 associated with these. Number one on their list is the RTE project, and that's the big one, that's the $500,000 project to install the valves, the water systems, to equalize the pressure throughout the county. That's the number one.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? And we can adjourn. It is 7:23. To the adjourn. Okay, I'll take it to your. Sorry, adjourn. Yeah, request.
We'd like to see if we can, but the market anything so.
We marked the rating, we want to know about it.
Yeah, maybe put a wind sock there. I was wondering if you saw. Who managed that? That's like the fire. I think when I was marked by.
Well, that blue stuff is finally sitting here because it goes to shoppers with the rich.
They're just the Georgetown breeze.
Is it was what?
Gary, who is the person, the, let's see, that I watching. Jeremy Peter World. Jeremy, he's searching.
Really regular, but
No, it's like that, it's just, you know, the fire authority does manage that area, it's on some of the parking within 18 miles, they call me and say, you got to the area. Which is fine, we have to do that at least a long, but I, you know, I'm not gonna go spend time running in the inside, if fire authority, you have to move it, or Jeremy, yes, I got it down the street, and go out and toss it. I'll start with Jeremy. Oh,
Thank you. All right, and then there's nothing. Bring up Stephanie. Thank you, Alice. What was it, Peter?
Hi.
Thank you. We are.
Thank you. Apologies again, guys. Thanks for understanding.
Thank you.